were plotting a whole series of stars and constellations. They'd built an observatory with several alignment points, and on the basis of those alignments, they'd built one of the most accurate of prehistoric calendars. And then fine anthropologists like Marcel Griol and Germain Dieterlen went in West Africa and found the Dogon, an unusual people. Ogotomeli, one of their elders, sat down for 21 days non-stop, only stopping to sleep and eat, and spoke out several books. And then you find the African highly sophisticated. He is plotting star systems. The Dogon spoke of an invisible star, a white dwarf, which we had never seen in modern astronomy. They not only saw it, they plotted its orbit right up to the end of the 20th century, up to the year 1990. It's dead correct. They showed that although it seemed to be a tiny star, it was the heaviest type of star in our galaxy. Our machine showed that is dead correct. They said it had an elliptical orbit of 50 years around its parent star, Sirius A, and an orbit on its own axis. Our machine showed it had a 50-year orbit. We haven't caught up with the one-year orbit yet. They pointed to an object flashing and darkening, contracting and expanding within the region of Sirius B. The Einstein orbiting satellite found that 3.5 years ago. Do you know when the Africans found that? 5 centuries ago. And we didn't just find that. Claudia Zaslavsky, who spent half of her adult life in Africa, wrote the first book on African mathematical systems. How come when I was studying anthropology, I was told there were no mathematical systems in Africa? Because where they were studying in the bush and the desert, people counted with their fingers. Mathematical systems were among developed Africans, which were never studied because the African is not developed. Okay, so that you don't look where you should be looking. So they never found anything. She found mathematical systems where there were complex peoples. People who needed mathematics because they were involved in intensive and extensive trading. And then scripts. I was told the Africans never wrote. That's what I was told in university. We are preliterate, they said. But don't worry, we are giving you scripts. I did not know that the English who were telling me the Africans were preliterate are preliterate also. The English have no script. A lot of people haven't brooded on that. There is no English script. The script you use to use Anglo-Saxon songs is Roman. The English never wrote. When the Romans attacked Britain, they found nobody reading or writing. The Romans gave them a script. The English have no script. The French have no script. The Germans have no script. The Dutch have no script. The Romans brought a script and gave it to them. Europe has about half a dozen scripts. Roman script, Greek script, Russian script, the Phoenician script, which is half and half, Celtic script, which is also half and half according to the Book of Balamoth, 1 or 2 more. Africa has as many pre-European scripts. Africa has the Mande script. We have found about 200 characters in the Mande script, starting from Udmurtutek, 3000 BC, running across the Sahara. You can find remnants of it in the Vai script. We have the Akan script, both a drum script and a written script. We have the Faka script, the only script that African Americans brought to America. It's found in Suriname. They made the big mistake there because they brought too many of them belonging to the same tribe. They revolted and defeated the Europeans. The Europeans sued for peace, and the Africans said, if you want peace, give us guns. Which the Europeans did, and they retained their independence. And there are other scripts, the Meroitic script, which we are trying to decode and decipher, which we have not succeeded in doing, and the hieroglyphic script. which we thought had originated in Egypt, but which we know now originated at Kustal on the edge of the Sudan, at least 200 years before the first Egyptian dynasty. But where are the books, they say? The earliest books in the world are African. The Book of the Dead, or rather it should be called the Book of the Coming Forth by Night and Day. The pyramid texts, the Papyrus of Ani. You will hear tomorrow from Dr. Ben the profound impact of those books upon the thinking of the Greeks. Look at the medical literature of the world. They said the clinical method began with the Greeks. It did not. You can read the Edwin Smith Papyrus, Dr. Finch, whom you will hear tomorrow. Dr. Finch has done a commentary recently for the journal on the Edwin Smith Papyrus, showing it is only 1/3 of an earlier manuscript written down in the 18th dynasty by a surgeon in Egypt, and that it only deals with the head and neck and the brain. Yet there are 200 terms. There are 200 medical terms for things inside and outside the head. He said that they discovered in that very early time things which we only know today through X-rays. He said that they found the locus in the brain through which auditory information is processed. They were working on pulse taking 1,000 years before Herophilus, the Greek who was credited with pulse taking. And then the Greeks came. And the Greeks, I must say, though some people may disagree with me, relative to what was to happen later, showed a profound respect and reverence for the Africans whom they defeated. Alexander built his city in Africa. And the Greeks went to Africa to be educated, even as I, out of my shattered world, had to go to Europe to be educated. They went. Thales of Miletus, Democritus, Pythagoras, Eudoxius, Anaximander, Anaximenes, Heraclitus, all of them went. St. Clement of Alexandria said if you were to write a book of 1,000 pages, you could not put down the names of all the Greeks who went to Egypt. And even those who did not go claimed they went because it was prestigious. And everything that was of significance and consequence they brought back. And as I have pointed out, that does not demote the Greeks. They're not the first in this and the first in that, but they did remarkable things. But their death to Egypt was profound. And they admitted that. They admitted it. Even the gods. They take Zeus and all sorts of gods and goddesses out of Egypt. The goddess of chastity is Artemis, a black woman. Circe in the Odyssey is a black woman with African features, not just ritually black. Andromeda is represented as a woman with black skin in some of the early Grecian vases. Andromeda, who married Perseus, the Greek hero. And Medea, who helped Jason win the golden fleece, is represented as a black woman. And Isis, the mother of God, the sister of God, the wife of God, the female principle of the divine. She is not just worshipped among Africans, she becomes the major figure among the Europeans. Even Caligula, the Roman lunatic, worshipped Isis. It is found even in the British Isles. And Isis and Horus were first seen as Mary and Jesus, until Michelangelo comes in the scene and starts painting his family as Jesus. And all of these things, they took medical literature out. The medical school, of course, in Greece followed all the things of the Egyptians. Even Isaac Newton, the most remarkable scientist before Einstein, said several things were prefigured in Egypt. They had a concept of the atom, he said, even though they called it the monad, and even though they had certain mystical notions about it, they saw it as the building block of the physical universe. The conceptions by the early Africans, the doggone